Most heaters fail the moment the power dies, but this one doesn't. And honestly, the reason why is unsettling. Imagine the grid going dark, your house getting colder by the minute, and every high-tech system silently quitting on you. Except one quiet machine still giving off heat, like nothing happened. Sounds impossible, right? Stay with me, because what you're about to see isn't just about a heater. It's about a design that was never meant to rely on the modern world in the first place. And near the end, I'm going to reveal the one detail almost nobody notices. The same detail that decides whether you stay warm through the night or learn the hard way why simplicity always survives. If the grid goes down tomorrow and the temperature drops below freezing, most modern heaters become expensive metal furniture. But this one keeps running, and that's exactly why it matters in 2026. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to admit. Our heating systems are fragile. Gas furnaces need electricity for the blower motor and control board. Heat pumps die the second the grid hiccups. Even pellet stoves rely on augers and circuit boards. We built comfort on top of complexity, and complexity fails first. But there's a certain kind of heater, simple, mechanical, brutally analog, that keeps working long after the smart home turns into a cold tomb. And the reason it still works has nothing to do with luck. It's physics. It's combustion. It's thermodynamics doing what thermodynamics has always done, whether civilization cooperates or not. The first reason this heater survives 2026 is brutally simple. It doesn't depend on the grid. No circuit board, no Wi-Fi, no microprocessor waiting for a firmware update. At its core, it's just controlled fire and airflow. Combustion is a chemical reaction between fuel and oxygen, releasing heat energy stored in molecular bonds. That reaction does not care about blackouts, sanctions, cyber attacks, or rolling outages. If you can supply fuel and air, you get heat. And in survival science, eliminating dependencies is everything. Every additional component is another point of failure. Military field manuals emphasize simplicity for this exact reason. Fewer systems, fewer breakdowns. When temperatures drop below freezing, hypothermia becomes a mathematical countdown. Your core temperature only has to drop a few degrees before judgment collapses. A heater that functions without electricity isn't nostalgic. It's life insurance. The second reason it keeps working is thermal mass. Modern forced air systems blast hot air quickly, but once they shut off, the warmth disappears just as fast. This heater, especially if it's cast iron or thick steel, absorbs heat, stores it, and releases it slowly over time. That's not magic, that's heat capacity. Dense materials take longer to warm up, but once they're hot, they radiate energy steadily. Radiation, convection, conduction. The holy trinity of heat transfer. You're not just warming air, you're warming objects, walls, floors, your own body through infrared radiation. And when the power grid is unstable, that slow-release warmth becomes a buffer against sudden cold snaps. You're smoothing out temperature swings instead of riding them like a roller coaster. In survival conditions, stability beats intensity every single time. Now here's the part most people overlook: ventilation and draft. A simple wood or kerosene heater relies on natural convection. Hot air rises. That rising column of heated air creates negative pressure at the base, pulling in fresh oxygen to sustain combustion. That's the chimney effect. It's passive. No fans required. As long as there's vertical clearance and an exit for exhaust gases, airflow continues. Even in sub-zero environments, this principle holds because it's driven by density differences in air temperature. Colder air is denser. Nature does the pumping for you. The only real threat is blockage or poor setup, which is why placement and maintenance matter more than brand names ever will. When everything else is silent and dark, a heater powered by gravity and buoyancy keeps breathing on its own. Fuel flexibility is the fourth reason it still works. In 2026, supply chains are not guaranteed. Propane shortages, diesel rationing, electricity pricing spikes, they're not science fiction anymore. But a properly designed combustion heater can burn multiple fuels depending on design. Seasoned hardwood, biomass briquettes, sometimes even scrap lumber in extreme scenarios. The energy density of dry hardwood averages around 20 million BTUs per cord. That's stored solar energy captured by trees over decades. You're tapping into long-term biological storage. Compare that to a battery bank that drains in hours under heavy load. Wood doesn't care about lithium supply constraints. It doesn't need an inverter. It doesn't negotiate with utility companies. It burns because carbon bonds break and release energy. That reliability is ancient, and ancient is exactly what you want when modern systems fail. But let's talk about the human body for a second, because this is where it gets real. Hypothermia doesn't start with dramatic shivering in a snowstorm. It starts quietly, Mild drops in core temperature impair fine motor skills and decision-making. You fumble with tools. You forget simple tasks. Judgment slips. A functioning heater prevents that cascade by maintaining ambient temperature above critical thresholds, ideally above 50 degrees Fahrenheit in survival scenarios. You drastically reduce metabolic stress. Your body doesn't have to burn precious calories just to stay alive. In long-term emergencies, conserving calories is as important as storing them. Heat is not comfort. It's metabolic efficiency. There's also the psychological factor, which survival experts rarely quantify but always respect. Fire changes morale. A visible flame provides both radiant heat and emotional stability. Humans evolved around campfires. That flicker triggers something deep and ancient in the brain: safety, tribe, continuity. In prolonged grid failures, psychological fatigue becomes as dangerous as physical cold. A heater you can see and hear, one that crackles and radiates, becomes a stabilizing anchor. This section is based on practical field survival experience rather than formal academic sources. Maintenance is the quiet hero in this story. The reason this heater still works in 2026 isn't just design, it's upkeep. Ash removal to maintain airflow. Checking seals to prevent carbon monoxide leakage. Ensuring flue integrity so exhaust gases exit properly. Carbon monoxide is odorless and binds to hemoglobin more effectively than oxygen, starving tissues silently. A working heater without ventilation becomes a hazard. But here's the key. Mechanical systems give warning signs. Poor draft, visible smoke spillage, unusual smells, these are observable indicators. Digital systems often fail without warning. Analog systems fail slowly, and slow failure gives you time to react. In survival planning, time equals options. And let's address efficiency, because critics love to say old heaters waste energy. It depends on perspective. Modern condensing furnaces can reach over 90% efficiency under ideal conditions, but only when fully powered and maintained. In a blackout, their efficiency is zero. A basic wood stove operating at 60 to 75% efficiency, but running continuously, beats a 95% efficient system that won't turn on. Efficiency without resilience is theoretical. Resilience with moderate efficiency is practical. When temperatures drop below freezing for days, theoretical efficiency does not warm your hands. There's also decentralization. One heater, one room, one controlled microclimate. Instead of trying to heat an entire house during a grid failure, you close doors, insulate windows, consolidate living space. The military calls this reducing your thermal footprint. Heat a smaller volume, reduce convection loss, minimize infiltration. Even simple measures, thermal curtains, rolled towels under doors, reflective barriers behind the heater, can reduce heat loss significantly. You're not fighting winter across 2,000 square feet. You're defending 300. That shift in strategy multiplies the effectiveness of any independent heat source. And here's the final layer: repairability. In 2006, parts availability is unpredictable. A cracked control board can sideline a modern furnace for weeks. But a simple heater? Most components are mechanical. Grates, dampers, gaskets, these can be fabricated, replaced. High-tech systems require proprietary parts. Low-tech systems require tools and effort. In collapse scenarios, effort is cheaper than supply chains. So when someone asks why this heater still works in 2026, the answer isn't nostalgia. It's not stubbornness. It's physics, simplicity, and independence layered together. It works because it relies on combustion instead of circuits, because it stores heat instead of chasing it, because it breathes through natural convection instead of electric fans, because it burns fuel you can physically hold instead of energy delivered through invisible wires, because it can be cleaned, repaired, understood without a software manual, and because when the lights go out and the thermostat screen turns black, fire still answers to oxygen and fuel the same way it did 10,000 years ago. Listen, preparedness isn't about paranoia. It's about understanding systems and knowing which ones collapse first. The heater that still works in 2026 is the one built on principles older than the grid itself. And when the temperature drops and silence replaces the hum of modern life, the soft roar of controlled fire becomes more than warmth. It becomes proof that some technologies don't expire.